Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all well. Today with me, I've got a special guest. I've got DB Crypto. How are you, DB Crypto?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so excited about this because not very many people talk about this and not many people do the work that you're doing. And I actually call it the God's work in crypto. Now, for those people who are unaware, we've actually covered DB's story, crypto journey, crypto story. So do go and check it out on in the videos. So today we're going to be talking about what a dirty game crypto is. Crypto is still in its infancy. Blockchain technology is still in its infancy, and there are a lot of bad players in crypto. Crypto is absolutely amazing. It is the future of technology. Web3 will be built on crypto. On blockchain technology, and we'll get into everything, what blockchain is, what's been going on, blah de blah de blah. Now, we're not going to be hating on any project here. We will be talking about Solana, Ethereum, a couple of other projects. We're not hating on any of them. I do think Solana is going to be doing really well this bull cycle. I also think Ethereum is going to be doing really well, and I have been saying I don't think Ethereum is dead. Just quickly, let's have a quick look as in who is in the chat. So we've got Mike Volmar. Hello, Mike. I hope you're well. And we've got John Legend. We've got All Set. Welcome, All Set. I hope you're well. We've got me because I like my chat. I'm always in my chat. We've got a fellow Brit. We've got Rob C, who is also part of the Princess's Army. Anyone can join Princess's Army, and we'll talk about the Princess's Army a little bit later. We've got Black Hat Team. Welcome, Black Hat. I hope you're well. We've got Bull Duck. I hope you're well, Bull Duck. And we've got Rusty Bot. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Rusty Bot is an actual person, which I actually mistook him once before, but he is an actual person. Let me just quickly get rid of this ticker. Right. So, welcome to everyone who's in the chat. There are 31 people watching at the start of the stream. Please do come in and say hi. I love shouting you all out. Okay, so what is before we move on, let's talk about what is blockchain. Now, blockchain is the future of the internet. Web3 will be built on blockchain technology. To know what blockchain is, let's look at what Web 1 was. So Web 1 was the internet of the 80s and the 90s. It was slow. It was dial-up internet. It was very, very slow. It was static, blah de blah de blah, and it was desktop internet back in the day. Parents internet for a lot of people in the chat. Then we have Web 2. That's the internet of today. It's mobile, it's all around, it's Bluetooth, it's Wi-Fi, it's on many different devices, iPads, laptops, computers, desktops, mobile phones. It's interactive, a lot more interactive. It's a lot more faster. However, it is centralized. There's only 5 or 6 companies that are literally running the whole of Web 2, if that makes sense. Things like Amazon, Facebook, all the rest of it. There's only a couple of companies that are running it. It's very, very centralized. They take your data. They know who you are, blah, de, blah, de, blah. Web 3 is going to be built on blockchain technology, and that is open, it's permissionless, it's decentralized, there's no kill switch. If it goes down in one area, it's still going to be up in other areas. That's Web 3, built on blockchain technology. And just before we start, we'll be talking about, let me just quickly explain what blockchain is. Now, for some people, they don't really understand what blockchain is. Blockchain actually came out Um, I think the idea of it was conceived very late into the 70s and 80s, but the first decentralized or the first blockchain that was successful was Bitcoin's blockchain. Cryptocurrencies run on blockchains. There's proof of work, proof of stake, blah de blah de blah, proof of history, proof of authority, all the rest of it. There's consensus mechanisms. It's really quite difficult to understand. Um, so, DB, just very quickly, in your words, how would you describe blockchain technology?
Oh, that's a good one. Blockchain technology. It's a way to remove middleman, and you can have
Exactly. Yeah.
customized logic
Mm-hmm.
that is it's all coded. So you don't have to have a middleman who's doing something for you. And this obviously helps with costs as well as so much more. But the actual basis of a blockchain is kind of exactly like you'd envision it, a chain of blocks. And a block is a bundle of transactions. And
Mm-hmm.
different blockchains have different block times, meaning a new block is created every anything from 400 milliseconds to 12 minutes. And depending on the chain you're using, that block has, again, a bundle of transactions from everyone around the world, whoever's using it. They, they validate all the transactions, come to consensus, and then they add it to the chain. So it's a literal block, a chain of blocks.
Mm-hmm. Some people are saying the sound is a bit off. Is this any better? I'm not entirely sure. I've literally got it right here. Let me just check all the connections. The volume is low. Um,
Is that on my end or your end, I guess?
I think it might be on both. I'm just going to, um, if I just check the connections again. Do you just want to check your connections, make sure everything's in its, oh, it's your end. Oh
Okay,
dear.
yeah, I'll just move closer to the mic. Hopefully that'll help.
Oh, brilliant. Awesome. Oh, we have some other people joining in the chat. So just very quickly. Oh, we got Poman. Hello, Poman. I hope you're well. Hope Mrs. Poman is well. And the Po Kids. We got Chipper and oh my gosh, I think I'm not. Got Chipper. We got Mr. M. Sorry, JM. How are you? I hope you're well. Okay, yeah. Oh my gosh, I really actually want to start a macro channel, a TA channel, because I would like to get into all of this. Peace of my mind. Hello, I hope you're well. Good to have you with us. And Steve as well. I hope you're well. Okay, so that's pretty much what blockchain is. It's literally the ledger behind cryptocurrency. Everybody needs it. It's every cryptocurrency needs it, and Web3 will be built on it. And there's loads of nodes all over the place. Blah de blah de blah. Okay, so let's. Oh, you're very loud now, or maybe that's probably my machine actually. Let's now quickly talk about how blockchains report how well their blockchain is working. Now, like I said, we're not actually going to hate on Solana, not at all. But Solana, I know Solana well because I've studied it well. I've studied the history of Solana. I'm just going to be using it as an example. I do know, and I've known this for a while, that Solana uses bots to manipulate its TPS. Now, for those people who are unaware, TPS is transactions per second, and obviously, the faster the network is, the more hype that's around it, the better the network seems. It also interferes with its volume and how popular the network is. So, DB Crypto, why is Solana using bots to manipulate its TPS, and how does that all work with the volume, the TPS, and the data that it's churning out?
So it's a simple answer. right off the bat. Hopefully the volume's better now too.
It is, yeah.
Is because they can, and that's what so much of the space really looks at, unfortunately. And the space and hype or money is driven by kind of meaningless metrics in a way right now, such as TPS and transaction count, users or wallets, addresses, stuff like that. Volume, which is also heavily manipulated across not just Solana, but many chains. So when hype is driven by these metrics or these narratives that are so easy to manipulate and fake, then if you can, you kind of do it. And they're purposely built for it.
So with Solana, for those people who are unaware, Solana, they started to think and work upon Solana in 2000 and I think it was 17. And then Solana actually went the Genesis block of Solana was in March 2020. That's literally at the middle of the COVID dip. Solana has done exceptionally well. It went from literally a few pennies. I mean, if we just talk about the 2021 bull run, Solana started off with literally just worth a few US dollars, and it ended the bull run worth over 150 US dollars. That's a huge amount of profit that people made who got into Solana. So with Solana, is this data? How much does this data affect the price go up? If that makes sense.
Well, that's, I'd say, hard to answer, but in my opinion, and off of all the data I've looked at and just seeing how it affects various blockchains, I'd say mostly, at least 70, 80, 90% of it is because of their metrics that are easily manipulated and gamed. And then obviously with SBF, Sam,
Mm-hmm.
Alameda, FTX being such a big backer, and there's a lot of not even speculation. There's data showing that he was involved in shorting other projects while pushing Solana and
Such a
kind of
dirty
creating
game.
an uneven playing field and really pushing the one that he was in love with.
Hmm. Crypto is such a dirty game. Okay, so when we talk about, and one of the reasons why this live stream is important, when we look back at 2022, I know a lot of people were probably not in crypto in 2022, but for those of us who are aware, we noticed that in the summer of 2022, we were hit by Black Swan event after Black Swan event after Black Swan event. We had the Terra Luna crash, 40 billion US dollars of investor funds were lost in just the Terra Luna crash. We had Celsius. In Celsius, it was 4.5 billion US dollars of investors' funds that were lost. 3 Hours Capital, 33 billion US dollars of investors' capital that was lost. And then we had FTX, which was about 9 billion US dollars. I got that from the internet this morning. I haven't actually double checked these numbers. That's a huge amount of money. And that's one of the reasons why we really do need to look into what's happening behind the scenes with all of these projects, because we didn't think Terra Luna was going to crash. Terra Luna was a algorithmic based stable coin. And it was very, very big, very big. And I remember we had uh, Jake, Jake Gordon on the show. He's another YouTuber. He was part of the Celsius collapse. He lost 500,000 US dollars in the Celsius collapse. And he said to me, or he said during his crypto stories, that there are people who are not here today because of the Celsius collapse. So is that something that could happen to Solana, or are they changing their are they changing things behind the scenes? Because they were a fake it until you make it blockchain, weren't they?
Yeah, and I'd still say to an extent they still are, but it's not a, I wouldn't say it's a Luna type situation or event. That was a unique event, kind of based off of a poor economic structure and even tokenomics that the market just wasn't ready for. And people took advantage of it. They figured out how to manipulate it and crashed the entire system. So no, Solana isn't really at risk of something like that. Now
Hmm.
they there's a lot of heavy VC holders and whales that have an extreme amount of tokens that could drive the price down. But other than that, it's not a Luna type event.
Hmm. No offense, but I wish there was a chain where new humans were allowed. There is one. It's called Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. There is one. What about other chains? How many other chains are there? There's Bitcoin's source code is actually open source, meaning anyone can actually start another blockchain. I know they say Pulse Chain. No, Pulse Chain is the source code of Pulse Chain is they built that off Ethereum, didn't they?
It was
Um,
one of the forks, yes.
yeah, one of the forks, etc. Okay, let's move on. So I'm just checking the comments as they go along. So basically, Solana came out, blah, de, blah, de, blah. It says, look, we've got this TPS, we've got all this volume, we've got all these wallets. A lot of people flooded in. The price went up. It was absolutely amazing for the people last bull cycle. Absolutely amazing. I actually own a lot of Solana, if I'm completely honest. I am a fan of Solana, but I do know that there are things going on behind the scenes. With Solana. What do you think the real TPS, that's transactions per second, and the volume is on Solana if we were to take out the bots?
If you were to take out the bots, oh, this is actually, I had a discussion with Toli on this a couple years ago. It's obviously changed now, but even he admitted, I think it was probably about 2 years ago, that the actual human related TPS was probably only around seven.
Jeez. What,
Currently,
7%?
I'm sure it's quite a bit more than that because it has gotten some adoption since then. But if you take out consensus messages, which are currently around 70% of all TPS, and then you take out bot transactions, you're probably looking at less than somewhere between 2 to 5% of TPS is actual humans.
That's that actually I wasn't aware that it was that bad actually. That's a huge amount. Why are they running the bots? Is it literally so that they could get more investment? Or is it a status thing?
It's there's a few reasons. One is probably the biggest is for MEV, arbitrage, MEV, maximum extractable value, and they have these bots run transactions for them so they can arbitrage pricing on different dexes to help balance it out because a token, let's just say bonk, is $1 on one dex like Jupiter, and on Radium maybe it's 98 cents. So they'll go buy a lot on Radium, go sell it on Jupiter. So this is a bot action because they can
Okay,
make
okay, yeah.
profit doing this over and over again.
Yeah.
But there's also the negative side of MEV, which is front running and sandwich attacks, which
Mhm.
Solana is also really, really bad for. This is where the validators can plug it, they can see all the transactions in a mempool. And what this means is to try and keep it not so technical, all the transactions before they get put into a block or sent around to all the validators to see are in this mempool, and a validator can see that hey, this person wants to buy 1 Solana, and this is the current price. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my bot go buy it 100 Solana right now, or I'm going to sell 100 Solana right now. Drive up the price so the person that wants to buy pays a higher price, and then as soon as they do, then I'll go sell all of it for a tiny profit. And this is
Mhm.
done over and over. I think there's a dashboard that shows it. It happens every 4 seconds. There's a sandwich attack on Solana, and this is theft from users. Same
Mhm.
thing with front running. So, and this makes up a large part of the transactions on Solana.
Mhm. Mhm. And another thing that Solana does, and I don't know if other blockchains do this, bearing in mind I've only studied Solana really, if I'm completely honest, um, is it will count failed transactions as real transactions.
Correct. Yes. And I think all blockchains do count that, but they have just far more than any other chain because of the way it's designed. It's obviously it's cheap and it's fast.
Mhm.
So when a validator might, or yeah, a node might do, or a bot, sorry, bot might do 100 transactions in a second or two, knowing that only one of them is actually going to succeed. But
Mhm.
that one that does succeed is doing a sandwich attack on someone else, and they end up making maybe it's only 5 cents, 10 cents. And that pays for the cost of the other 99 transactions that failed. And if you do that thousand, couple thousand, 10,000, 100,000 times a
Mhm.
day,
Mhm.
it adds up.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, awesome. Just before we go on to the centralization bit, how common is it for blockchains to misreport what's actually happening, their real TBS, their real volume without all these bots, etc.? And is anyone checking them?
No, well, some people are. I do for the most part. I like to dive into the real metrics, but most chains that I have looked into do this. It's not uncommon to Solana. It's just far greater on Solana for sure. Because again, the design of the network kind of facilitates it with it being fast and cheap, how it works. So it's I wish it was more something that was spoken about more rather than just the base metrics that everyone publishes and sees that are inflated 90-95% sometimes.
Hmm. Hmm. And there, again, I'm saying because I've only studied Solana to this degree, I know other blockchain. Well, as you're saying, other blockchains do it as well. I have actually studied other blockchains as well, but Solana I've studied a bit more, and Ethereum, and we were looking to Ethereum. Just before we actually go into Ethereum, let's talk about centralization because this is something that I've known about for a while. So with Solana, we're running nodes. It's proof of history slash proof of stake. You're running nodes. Now these nodes can cost 20,000 US dollars, and then you've got the running costs above. You've got the maintenance cost above, and then you need around about, don't quote me on this, but around about 2 million. Is it 2 million Solana or 2 million USD worth of Solana to stake?
I'm not sure what the current number is, the minimum. I can look it up, but it's the minimum is quite different than the minimum in order to be profitable. Now that number is crazy high. I want to say it's somewhere around 20 million USD worth in order to be a profitable node. Now don't quote me on that. It might have changed recently.
So this is it. So not everyone, like with Bitcoin, anyone can run a Bitcoin blockchain. You can run it on a server, you can run it on your computer. But when it comes to Solana, because it's so expensive, what are the centralization concerns, if that makes sense? Because not everyone can run these nodes.
Well, yeah, I'd say the hardware, the costs, which you kind of touched on a little bit, the hardware for them is quite high. That's why the majority of nodes are run in giant data centers because it's not something you can run on your typical home computer. Like I couldn't run it here, or you likely couldn't run it on your home computer. And they also require, I believe, it's a really high bandwidth. I think it's 10 gigabytes bandwidth, which I don't even have as an option here. And I live in the US, outside of a major city. So that limits greatly who's allowed to run, which again is why so many are run out of data centers. But then obviously the costs is a high factor for the amount of Solana you need in order to be profitable with this node. So the foundation does subsidize the
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming majority of nodes. So they give their Solana to they don't give they loan it out to the validators in order to use in order to validate the blockchain. And in order to receive funds from the Solana Foundation, you have to KYC. So more than 50%, at one point not too long ago, 73% of all nodes on Solana were KYC'd, which could be that's a huge risk if you ask me. Because if the government does say come and say shut this down, Well, you've got addresses and data and information for 73% of your nodes. On something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, that's not possible. You can't do that.
Just welcoming Fitz, my ninja, and meet Damien. I hope you guys are well in the chat. There are 45 people watching. Please come and say hi to us. And let's talk about asset structure just generally. This is where, and we see this daily on a daily basis amongst most blockchains. We're not just talking about Solana. Amongst more blockchains where you have 5-6 figures drained from your blockchain. Crypto is such a dirty game. It really is. What's going on with this asset structure, if that makes sense?
So yeah, this could be kind of a large topic, and it's one of my primary focuses. I'm huge on security. I believe security is the number one reason that we don't really have retail adoption, and why the space hasn't grown as quickly as it could. And so I'll point to Ethereum and most EVM chains, which are layer twos that everyone knows: Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, Base. Their token structure, how it is designed, is, to kind of put it simply, all tokens are a smart contract. It's just think of this contract, and your tokens and my tokens are part of this smart contract. And our private keys just give us claim to what this smart contract says. So they're not actually tokens in the sense that you'd think, like a physical object or even an actual token in that sense. You just have claim to data in a smart contract. And in order to use that in any protocol, you have to give that protocol permission to access those tokens for you and your wallet even, which is a huge, huge security risk. And I'm guessing most people here probably experience this. When you go, say you're going to use Uniswap for the first time, you're going to get two transactions initially when you're trying to do a swap. The first one is an approval transaction. And what this is basically you're saying you're giving Uniswap permission to use your tokens. And then the second is you're approving the actual transaction, whether it's going to be swapping one Ethereum for 4,000 USD or whatever the price is at that time. And that approval, that first transaction, that approval is typically forever, which is a huge, huge risk, because if that protocol ever gets hacked in the future, which we've seen happen, the person that hacks it has access to your funds because they still have that approval from your wallet. And it's a nightmare. I can't believe it's not talked about more, because this is what leads to the majority of hacks that are every single day, 6, 7, 8 figures in numbers, from users like yourself and I that just unfortunately just don't, they fall for these traps. You can go to a malicious website, a website that looks identical to Uniswap, do a transaction thinking you're going to swap one ETH for 4,000 USDC again. But in the back end, what's really happening, you're giving them approval to your wallet. So that person can then drain your entire wallet. And it's a nightmare. We see it happen every single day. And this is an Ethereum, an EVM kind of functionality, which is just, it's a mess. It was a first concept, proof of concept, that in my opinion should have been ditched long ago, because we have so much better primitives and options now.
Okay, gosh, and that's why we say just store your wallets in a cold wallet. Sorry, store your funds in a cold wallet, if that makes sense. Um,
Yes, and if you do use these chains, make sure you revoke approvals. But a lot of people don't know that you have to do that, which is, it's part of the education thing. But we're never going to teach retail, the world, that they need to go revoke approvals after a transaction, because it's not standard. And it also costs money because it's another transaction. Especially if you're using Ethereum, it can add up in fees.
what I really don't like about blockchains, and I'm going to be open about this, is It's happened to me before as well, especially when you're a newbie. Blockchains and cryptocurrency should be for everyone. Our grandparents should be able to do it. It's not. If you were to send money to the wrong address, you can't get that money back.
Yeah, or even if it's the right address on the wrong chain. We see this happen all the time, and then it's lost to the
If
void.
it's the right address on the wrong chain, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, it's very difficult when you first get into crypto, learning about cryptocurrency. Now we're here and we've done it like, so many times. It's quite easy for us, but still, you can still get caught out, especially if if you're, busy or, whatever, you can really get caught out.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I could only imagine how much crypto is completely lost to
Oh,
wrong addresses,
mhm.
and I think they estimate that there's only going to be somewhere between 18 to 18.5 million Bitcoin. Even once
Oh,
it's
yeah.
released, its
Yeah.
emissions are over. So that means what, 2.5 million, 2.5 million, 3 million lost,
Oh, yes, much more than that actually now. I mean, they
probably.
say, yeah, that they're saying even more than that has been lost. I mean, it depends who you ask, but I've lost Bitcoin, and I've also lost crypto from sending it from one address to another address. And even though I sent it via a centralized exchange where you think that you might have a little bit more protection, they were unable to get that money back from me. If that makes sense.
Some
Um,
exchanges do have protections if you're sending it to an exchange. Sometimes that's possible, but for the most
mhm,
case or most part, it's not, unfortunately. Now there are more secure chains that do help eliminate that, so you can't do that. It won't accept the transaction on an Ethereum. That is a big risk again in most EVM chains. And I think there's even I don't remember the website, but there's a dashboard that shows it's got a running counter of all the Ethereum transactions and tokens that have been lost over time because of this.
mhm. Well, we'll talk about lost tokens. Let's also talk about the inflation rate on some of these blockchains. Now, for example, I know with Solana, I think they're bringing, is it about 17 million US dollars into circulation every day. And what they're doing with that is some of that goes to the Solana Foundation and some of it goes to the validators. That's a huge amount of money, isn't it?
It is.
17 million a day.
And that's just from new Solana that is printed every single day. There's also unlocks that almost double that number because of the estate sales from FTX and
Oh, yes. Yeah.
other
Yeah.
unlocks that happen, or other sales, VC sales that
Mhm,
happened 3, 4, 5 years ago. So if you look at the actual amount of new Solana that hits the market every single day, it's between, last I looked, around 25 to 30 million dollars every single day.
mhm, mhm. That's just an absolutely huge amount.
Yeah.
We also have Solana going down. Why does Solana sometimes go down?
So they haven't in what about quite a while. I think almost a year and a half now. I think maybe they've,
Mhm,
or just a little over a year, so they've done well there. Before it was, there were various reasons. I think they've been down maybe 14 times for various lengths, anywhere from a really short
mhm,
amount of time to over a day. And it, it's hard to say the specific reason because it's been for various reasons, and sometimes just bugs in the system, other times due to overload on transactions and volume that took the network down.
mhm, mhm. So when we have, just very quickly, for those people who are unaware, there's lots of different blockchains. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of blockchains now. And each blockchain has a consensus mechanism. The consensus mechanism is extremely important. It's what gives the blockchain legitimacy, it's what gives the blockchain security, and it's what helps run the blockchain. With Bitcoin, we have a proof of work blockchain, which I'm pretty sure most of you know exactly how that works because I keep going on about it. And then we have the Ethereum, which was proof of work, it's now proof of stake. With Solana, it's proof of history. With other, we have proof of authority, proof of blah 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 blah. Solana's actually changing its consensus mechanism. Why is it doing that?
So Solana, they are still a proof of stake blockchain, but they have this proof of history mechanism to basically just timestamp everything that happens in the network.
Mm-hmm.
And so with their next big upgrade, Alpenglow, which is due sometime in 2026, typically I think they say quarter 1, but it'll probably be delayed like most things are. They're going to be removing the proof of history mechanism because I guess it's just not needed. Some can argue that it really wasn't needed to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and but that's a technical topic too. That's something probably for another day. But yeah, there's still a proof of stake like most other blockchains outside of Bitcoin and Bitcoin forks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's just quickly touch upon Ethereum because outside of Solana, I do quite know a bit about Ethereum. I've studied all the background history to it, blah 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 blah, and its blockchain and the consensus mechanism. How centralized, or are there still centralization concerns with Ethereum? One when Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of history, it lost a lot. Well, it lost all of its miners, etc. I think there's something like 8,000 block producing nodes. Is that correct?
Correct. Just a little over, I think last I looked, around 8,000
Mm-hmm.
machines, nodes. Yeah.
So what's this thing that they sometimes say? Oh my god, we've got like a million when they have bundles of 33 ETH or something similar to that. What's all that about?
Yeah. So they classify it a little bit differently than I think the rest of the space. I like to look at it as machines. A machine is kind of a node. This is what
Mm-hmm.
helps validate the blockchain and helps perform consensus. And they consider all their, so if you stake 32 ETH, that is a bundle of ETH, and that is what they consider a node for some reason. And there's over a million bundles of ETH, but there's not a million machines around the world that
Yeah.
are like validating the blockchain. So they kind of misrepresent that a little bit, and it is what it is. And it's just another one of those numbers that a lot of people either don't understand, or if they do, they get fooled by and think it's better than it really is, and that just shows how early we're still in the space.
Hmm. We're exceptionally early when it comes to all this other technology, and that's one of the reasons why I have my Bitcoin bag. And a lot of Bitcoin maxis will say, "Oh my God, it's just Bitcoin. Forget all the altcoins." But we actually need these altcoins because they're actually building the future as well. With Ethereum, people got, "Oh my God," they made a huge amount of money with Ethereum. When Ethereum was launched, I think it was launched on something like 20, 30, 40 cents or something similar to that. And then obviously it's now in the thousands. So if you had bought a huge amount of Ethereum, $100 worth of Ethereum, you're very comfortably a multi-millionaire. Now, again with Solana, it was launched at just a couple of pence or whatever. Last bull run, it went to 250 US dollars. This bull run, it might even get up to near about 1,000. The price is doing really, really well. When do people need to worry about this technology, the technology that's behind blockchains, if that makes sense? Would it be in the bear market so there isn't so they don't get caught up in a black swan event?
It's hard to say. I guess it depends on what you're looking at, and there's always chance of black swan events. But I'd say for right now, anytime when it comes to security, which is why I tend to steer people away from Ethereum and all EVM based chains for the most part. Again, all layer twos, and even Binance chain, Avalanche. there's a handful of them that are kind of EVM compatible that have a similar token model that is very risky and flawed in my opinion. And lot of people speak to this as well. But it's still, unfortunately, the standard. So a lot of people, a lot of others don't like to discuss it or bring it up because it's, I guess, anti crypto at this point. And you don't like to have that contrarian opinion all the time. As for the other risks, I'd say more for when adoption really hits, whenever that may be, and whenever we truly start getting some usage. For example, if we did suddenly have 100 million people using blockchain on any given day, which we're not even close to that right now, not even 10% of that, and they wanted to use Solana, Solana would crumble because there's no way they'd be able to handle it. No chain at this point would be able to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it depends on when adoption comes and how we can kind of adapt to that. But these leaders right now definitely would not be able to handle it or sustain it if for some reason we just got adoption next week or something. So that's a risk because I could certainly see Solana going down again if we had another mass influx event like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think with when it comes to all blockchains, apart from Bitcoin, Ethereum is doing really, really well, and it's the go-to for most institutions, literally because it has history behind it. It's now 10 years old. Solana's what, 5 years old or something similar to that. Tell me
Yep.
about other blockchains. I mean, these are the blockchains, these large blockchains are the ones that we know about. There are other hugely popular large blockchains. What other ones do you normally have on your radar that you look at?
Oh, there's so many. A kind of I'm big on the newer tech chains, the ones that are more recent and have much better primitives and a stronger foundation, which I believe are the ones that are going to be able to carry everything into the future. Primarily sharded blockchains, which means it's able to kind of split off into
Hmm.
multiple blockchains while keeping everything together.
Yeah.
And this was something that Ethereum originally planned to do, but they abandoned it, unfortunately. And they went the layer two model route, and it's caused a giant mess ever since. And it's something that's also not talked about nearly as much. But sharded blockchains for sure, and blockchains that have a more secure asset structure that won't fall victim to the flaws that you see with a lot of the EVM chains and obviously Ethereum. They they're just much more user friendly. Your wallet won't be drained due to a malicious transaction or something like that. And this is what I feel is going to help lead to retail adoption. Some
Hmm.
examples, one that probably a lot of people know is Sui. That's one of the
Hmm.
biggest up and comers. It's growing really, really fast. They have a great tokenomics model. They have a hybrid sharding model, so they can scale to hundreds of thousands of TPS without hitting major bottlenecks. And another one of my favorites is Multiverse X, which was formerly Elrond. It's actually the first fully sharded blockchain that can just scale with demand. It can scale to millions of TPS, and it also has a very secure asset structure. So these are some of the things that I think are going to start leading in the future when adoption actually starts coming, whenever that may be, in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You're going to need a stronger foundation to run on, and these chains that offer it.
Hmm. So, for those people who are unaware, the older blockchains, should we call them the older blockchains, they used to, um, the transactions used to be like you would go from one transaction to the second to like almost in a linear line. The sharded ones, they're a bit different. They don't need a line to work down. They can do loads of like these really amazing things and just get into like uh they're just so much faster. Okay, so with me, I know how I learn about blockchain technology. If there's anybody in the audience or anyone in the chat who wants to learn more about blockchain technology, how would you say that they should go about learning blockchain technology?
Well, I've got a lot of videos on it. So I guess for one, they can start by checking out my YouTube. I've got a blockchain basic series, which breaks down short 2 to 3 minute videos on the most basics. What is a blockchain? What is a wallet? How does a wallet work? How does a token work? How do you do a swap? Stuff like that. So some of the very basics. But then if you want to get more technical, I have videos on what is sharding? How does sharding work? Different asset structures, the serious flaws with Ethereum asset structures. So I've got a lot of that content. But other than that, there's there's so much to learn. I'm learning more and more every day, and the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things where it's a an endless world of knowledge in this space that shows how new we are still to it. It's this new technology. It's this new foundation for everything in the future.
And we are so new in this is all this stuff is so new. I remember when I was reading about the history of Bitcoin, when they were actually thinking of doing hard forks and soft forks, they didn't even know it was a hard fork that they were discussing. This was only like, I don't know, 10 odd years ago or something. We are so new into the all of this technology. We're going to leave it there because I know you've got somewhere to go, DB Crypto, and we did start a little bit late. But thank you for coming on. We will be talking about more on this chain about the dirty game that is behind crypto. And that's not FUD, it's not to put anyone off. We're going to have an absolutely amazing bull run. 2025 for me, I've not actually invested very much into 2025. 2025 for me is taking profits and not round tripping my bags at all. But there are other things like market makers, pump and dump schemes, how influencers literally they're there. Some influencers are there and they know exactly what they're doing and they don't have your best interests at heart. So we'll be talking a little bit more about how crypto can be such a dirty game. But hopefully everyone's had a wonderful Friday. Looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to Bitcoin's price going up as well, and looking forward to an absolutely amazing bull run. Thank you so much for coming on, DB.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. It's I always enjoy talking about this stuff. This is actually my third stream already this morning, and it's still only 10:30 a.m. for me. So it's been a
Oh,
busy
that's
morning, and yeah, I host a space twice a week. So on Twitter. I enjoy talking about this stuff.
okay. What I will do is I'll actually link. I don't think I've got your Twitter feed linked down below. I do have your channel linked down below. I will put in the Twitter feed now, if that makes sense,
Perfect.
so everyone can find you. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone, for